Nathan, a 42-year-old billionaire, had everything one could possibly want. He had built a multi-billion-dollar empire, amassed incredible wealth, and lived a life of luxury, flying across the world at a moment's notice. But despite all his success, there was a void he couldn't fill. His penthouse, once a symbol of achievement, now felt eerily empty. His work, once a source of pride, had turned into a relentless grind. And despite all his accolades and accomplishments, Nathan felt more alone than ever. Vivian, his sharp assistant of 15 years, had noticed the change. She had seen how his once vibrant energy had been replaced with a quiet, almost haunting stillness. "You need something real," she told him one day. "Something that isn't about business or power. Maybe you need to think about what truly matters." It wasn't long before Nathan's need for something authentic led him to an orphanage. He wasn't sure what he expected, but what he encountered there shocked him. A boy no more than 8 years old sat across the room. The moment their eyes met, Nathan froze in disbelief. The boy looked exactly like him. Same features, same expression, same everything. It was as if Nathan was staring at his own reflection, but in a child. As he tried to process this overwhelming resemblance, the boy, with a cool, skeptical gaze, asked, "Why does my face look like your face?" The question hit Nathan harder than it should have, leaving him questioning everything. Could this child, this stranger, possibly be his son? The rest of the day unfolded in unexpected ways. The boy, named Oliver, wasn't just a typical orphan. He was sharp, independent, and completely unwilling to be anything he wasn't. Despite Nathan's wealth, Oliver wasn't impressed. He had already learned that people, especially adults, weren't always reliable. They often left, abandoned promises, and only showed up when it suited them. But Nathan wasn't ready to walk away. In that moment he decided he wanted to try. He didn't know what would happen or if it would even work, but for the first time in years, he felt something was worth fighting for. This wasn't a business deal. This wasn't about profit. This was about building a relationship with a child who might just change his life forever. Join us on this incredible journey of love, discovery, and redemption as Nathan faces the unexpected challenges of becoming a father to a child he never knew existed. This is a story of second chances, the power of connection, and the true meaning of family. This is the beginning of something real. Stay tuned for the full story, only on Acts of Kindness Stories. Nathan's world had always been one of precision, control, and extraordinary success. A CEO at 42, he had built an empire from the ground up, transforming a single risky investment into a multi-billion-dollar business. His name was synonymous with power. He could command a boardroom, make life-changing deals, and live a life many would only dream of. From his glass and steel penthouse overlooking the city skyline to jetting around the world at a whim. There was only one thing missing: a sense of fulfillment. For years, Nathan had pushed aside the feeling that something was wrong. He surrounded himself with the best, efficient employees, a loyal assistant, and people who could help him conquer the next big challenge. But as time passed, he realized that no amount of success, no stack of cash, could fill the emptiness he felt. It wasn't a midlife crisis. Nathan was too practical for that. He didn't splurge on things he didn't need or make impulsive decisions. But there was a hole that no business deal could close, no award could fill. Vivian, his assistant of 15 years, saw it before he did. She had always been sharp, reminding him when he was being ridiculous, when he was getting lost in the whirlwind of deals. She didn't pander to him. If anything, she made sure he knew when he was being, well, a bit of a workaholic. One morning, as Nathan was sipping his coffee, lost in his schedule, she put down a folder and looked at him with those knowing eyes. "You need something real," she said firmly, her tone not one for negotiation. "Something that doesn't involve mergers or intimidating your competition. Maybe you need a change." Nathan didn't respond. He didn't need to. The weight of her words sank in. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was time for him to change the narrative. He wasn't sure what he was looking for, A hobby, something to pass the time, maybe something to connect him to the world in a way that wasn't about profit or power. But what did that look like? The next evening, Nathan attended a gala, one of those charity events where people congratulated each other on their generous donations. Donations most of them wouldn't miss. It was supposed to be another night in the endless parade of public appearances, small talk and handshakes. Yet, as he looked at his reflection in the mirrored walls of the ballroom, something struck him. He felt like an outsider in his own life. He wasn't a man in the room. He was a figure, a symbol of wealth and status, a person whose presence didn't matter to anyone in the room beyond what they could gain. After the speeches and the obligatory check signing, Nathan wandered down a quiet hall in the children's hospital connected to the venue. He didn't want to be there, but something urged him to visit the few kids still awake. As a childless man, he wasn't exactly great with kids. They were unpredictable, honest in a way that didn't care about his wealth or reputation, and they didn't bow to his status. But there was something about the way the nurse had asked. Without thinking, he stepped into a small hospital room, where a little boy no older than 6 was lying on a bed, clutching a stuffed bear and a toy car. The boy looked up at him, his eyes tired but curious. "Are you famous?" the boy asked, his voice light and innocent. Nathan couldn't help but smile. "Depends who you ask." The boy seemed to consider this before nodding thoughtfully. "You look like someone important." It was a simple observation, but it hit Nathan in a way he wasn't prepared for. He wasn't famous. He wasn't even sure who he was anymore. For years, he had been driven by ambition, by the need to prove himself, to win. But in that moment, as he looked down at this small, innocent face, he realized how little space he had taken up in anyone's life. No one would miss him if he disappeared, except maybe Vivian, and that was only because she'd have to sort out the paperwork. As Nathan sat there, listening to the boy talk about cartoons, his favorite games, and how fast he could run before he got tired, he realized how desperately he wanted something real in his life. Not a company to grow, not an empire to expand, but a connection that wasn't tied to numbers or business strategies. The boy's unassuming honesty had cracked something open inside him. He needed a change.
The next morning, Nathan sat down with Vivian, and without hesitation, he made the decision. "I want to adopt," he said, surprising even himself. Vivian didn't look up from her tablet. She kept typing. "You want to what? A kid? A son maybe? Or a daughter? I don't know." He wasn't sure why he was saying it, but somehow it felt right. Vivian, the ever-pragmatic assistant, paused for a moment. "You don't even have a dog," she pointed out. "Nah, dogs are high maintenance." She pinched the bridge of her nose, clearly struggling to keep a straight face. "This is not like buying a new company, Nathan. You can't just pick one off a spreadsheet and hope it increases in value over time." "I know that," he replied quietly. For once, he didn't have a clever comeback. He knew it wasn't going to be easy. This wasn't something to take lightly. But the more he thought about it, the more certain he became. He had spent years chasing the wrong things. Maybe it was time to build something that actually mattered. Vivian sighed, giving him a long, searching look. "Fine, I'll set up a meeting." She turned to walk out, but then paused and shot him a pointed look. "You're going to regret this." Nathan couldn't help but smirk. Wouldn't be the first time. A week later, Nathan walked into the orphanage with the same calm certainty that had built his empire. What he didn't expect was the chaos. Children were everywhere, playing, talking, and laughing, completely indifferent to the fact that a billionaire had just walked through their door. It was like a whirlwind of noise and energy, and Nathan stood in the middle of it, already out of his depth. A caregiver, wearing a cardigan and holding a clipboard, approached him with a strained but polite smile. "Mr. Hawthorne, thank you for coming. We have a few children I think you'd love to meet." Nathan barely heard her. His eyes had locked on a figure across the room, a boy sitting on the edge of the play area. The kid was separate from the rest of the group, trading a pack of fruit snacks for a stack of Pokemon cards with another child. And there was something about the way he held himself, that same smug, self-assured look Nathan knew too well. Before he could make sense of it, the boy turned, their eyes meeting. Nathan's heart skipped. It wasn't just a vague resemblance. It was uncanny. The same dark hair, The same sharp features. The same skeptical expression. "Why does my face look like your face?" the boy asked, tilting his head. Nathan couldn't answer. Instead, he forced out a smirk, trying to mask his confusion. "Ever heard of cloning?" he said, trying to make light of the situation. The boy didn't smile. He didn't flinch. He just stared at Nathan with an unnerving focus, as if measuring him. He didn't say anything for a moment, just observed him. It was a moment of complete silence that stretched far too long. Finally, the caregiver intervened, her voice breaking the tension. "This is Ollie," she said. "He's independent. Very smart. But he's also cautious." Ollie's gaze never left Nathan, his eyes sharp, assessing. "Are you here to adopt me? Or just here to make yourself feel good?" His voice was level, steady, like he already knew the answer before Nathan could say anything. Nathan blinked. It was a question that caught him off guard. He wasn't expecting this kind of directness from a child. He wasn't prepared for the cynicism. He wasn't prepared to be scrutinized like this. "I came to meet some kids, see if there's a good fit," Nathan said slowly, trying to match Ollie's directness. "What do you think? Would I make a decent dad?" Ollie narrowed his eyes, clearly sizing Nathan up. He didn't answer right away, but when he did, it wasn't what Nathan was hoping for. "Dads usually stick around," Ollie said, his tone cutting. That single sentence hit Nathan harder than it should have. It wasn't just a reflection of the boy's distrust. It was a statement, a declaration, a reality. Ollie had been abandoned before. He didn't expect promises. He didn't expect people to stay. That was the moment Nathan knew. This wasn't going to be simple. Ollie wasn't just a child he could impress with his wealth. Ollie wasn't like other kids he had met in the past. He was self-reliant, independent, and already knew that adults weren't always to be trusted. Nathan had to prove he was different. He had to prove he wouldn't walk away. As Nathan continued his visits, he began to see more of the boy's true character. Ollie wasn't looking for a parent to buy him things. He didn't care about Nathan's wealth. He didn't care about anything except one thing, whether Nathan could be someone he could rely on. But Nathan was starting to get it. This wasn't about adopting a child for his own sake. This was about being there for Ollie in a way no one had been before. This was about showing up and staying. This was about becoming the father Ollie never knew he could have. Nathan didn't have all the answers. But he knew one thing: he wasn't walking away. And neither was Ollie. As the months passed, Nathan learned that being a parent was nothing like running a company. He had built empires, solved problems, and negotiated some of the toughest deals of his life. But parenting, that was a whole different game. He couldn't buy his way out of mistakes, couldn't negotiate his way to instant results. There were no spreadsheets, no strategic plans. It was just him and Ollie trying to figure things out together. The first few weeks were chaotic. Nathan tried to make pancakes. They were burned to a crisp. He tried to help with homework. It ended in a frustrating, if not slightly hilarious argument about bedtime. He even got roped into organizing a bake sale at Ollie's school, despite knowing nothing about it. But each moment, even the disasters, brought them closer. Ollie, still skeptical, still testing Nathan at every turn, slowly began to let his guard down. For the first time in years, Nathan realized that winning wasn't about closing the perfect deal or securing the best investment. It was about being there, really being there, for someone who needed him. And Ollie needed him more than he ever thought possible. Then, one day, Ollie hit Nathan with a question that stopped him in his tracks. "Why do you want a kid?" It wasn't a question about money or possessions. It was the real question, the one Nathan had never allowed himself to ask before. What was it that he truly wanted from all of this? Nathan didn't have the perfect answer. He didn't need one. What mattered was that he wanted to be a father. He wanted to be someone Ollie could trust. Someone who wouldn't walk away. It wasn't about guilt or obligation. It was about giving this kid the life he deserved, even if it meant making every mistake in the book along the way. Then came the moment Nathan had always feared, the legal battle. As if raising Ollie wasn't challenging enough, a distant relative of Ollie's biological mother suddenly appeared, demanding custody. A woman who had never been part of Ollie's life, now trying to claim him as her own. It was the fight of Nathan's life, but this time he wasn't going to back down. This wasn't a business deal. This was his son. With Vivian's help, Nathan fought fiercely, not just for custody, but for everything he had built with Ollie. He knew what mattered now. It was about the life they had together, the memories they had created, and the bond they had forged.
And when the judge asked Ollie what he wanted, the answer came without hesitation. "He's my dad." Nathan won. But more importantly, he realized something he hadn't expected. It wasn't about the legal victory. It was about Ollie knowing he had a family who would fight for him, who would never leave. For the first time, Nathan understood what it truly meant to be a parent. It wasn't about wealth, power, or even success. It was about being there when it mattered most. Ollie's first words to Nathan as his father weren't about titles or roles. They were simple, but they hit harder than anything Nathan had ever heard. "I know. The journey wasn't easy, but it was worth it." Ollie grew from that guarded, independent child into a young man with a future he could own. And Nathan, once consumed by power and wealth, found a new purpose: to be the best father he could be. 2 years passed, and as Ollie packed his bags for college, Nathan sat quietly in the passenger seat, realizing just how far they'd come. For the first time there was no more testing, no more doubt, only pride, and maybe a little sadness too, because being a parent meant knowing when to let go. But he wasn't ready to say goodbye yet. Ollie's words echoed in his mind. "You did good, Dad." And for Nathan, that was all he needed. If this story touched your heart and showed you the true meaning of family, we'd love to hear from you. Leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Acts of Kindness Stories for more heartwarming journeys that remind us all of the power of love and second chances. We're aiming for 10,000 subscribers, and your support means the world to us. Thank you for being part of this incredible journey. We'll see you in the next story.